Welcome to the Dog in a Pub podcast, where I share thoughts, stories, and conversations about my life and my journey post-suicide attempt.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
So pull up a stool and let's see if we can change the world.
I'd like to begin with a fact.
Hello and welcome to Dog in a Pub, episode 11. I'm not really going to do an intro on this one. I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about depression on this one. Most of us go through it at some point, one way or another. Some more than others, some much bigger and more encompassing, all-absorbing than others. In my case, I always had, a low-level depression for a good chunk of my life. But, I was the weird kid. I was always picked on and beat up. Very awkwardly unsocial. So, that was kind of the basis of my depression. And most of it seemed to be situational and just environmental. And then got married, had kids. And then my depression kind of really reared its head up after we had kids. Just, I don't regret my kids for a moment. They are awesome and wonderful and have made my life significantly better had I not had them. But, once we had kids, my relationship with my wife at the time changed dramatically. It kind of became me on one side and her and the kids on the other. And that didn't help either. I didn't try to break down that wall. I didn't try to move past that. I didn't try to engage. Instead, I just withdrew into myself and, played the role I thought I was supposed to play, which, didn't really work for anybody. Maybe my ex-wife or my kids. Things are a lot better now between me and the kids and the ex. But, God, I still hate that word, the ex. The mother of my children. Yeah, there's got to be a better word out there than that. Anyhow, but when the marriage ended, like I've mentioned on previous podcasts, I completely lost my identity at that point and really went down, the black hole that is depression. People have asked me, is there something somebody could have done to have stopped me? And honestly, I think the only thing would have been to lock me up and put me in a room until it passed, or, put me in someplace with 24-hour supervision. I had a plan and I carried it out 3 weeks later. I literally had the plan in place. I enjoyed my life for 3 weeks. I went to parties. I, interacted with the people, but I had that plan. And, they talk about depression being a liar. And, yeah, is it ever? There's a lot of information about it on the internet. And there's actually a book out there called Depression is a Liar, which I haven't read, but I think I'm going to add that to my list. But when you're depressed, at least in my case, and for some of the people I've talked to, the world just closes in. It gets smaller and smaller. And for me, when I was there was no out. It's not like I wasn't thinking, this will show them, or I'm gonna kill myself, because then I didn't think about other people. I didn't think about other people. There wasn't anything in my thought process that thought, well, if I do this, my family will be sad, my kids will be sad. All I could think of was, hey, if I die, I'm worth $500,000 to the mother of my children. So if I do this, my kids will get their college paid, and our debt will be paid off, and it'll just be great. It'll just be nice, because I have completely lost the will to exist. And if I go, people get this money, and they don't have to deal with my crap, with my shit, with my, my depression and my sadness and my anger and all my crap. Then nobody has to deal with that. I don't, nobody else does. So my depression kept telling me that. It kept saying, you're no good, you're no good, you're no good. The world will be better without you. You're broken, you're worthless, you're, every negative thing you can think of. That's what depression does. It just takes that negativity and it just beats you over the head with it. And actually had a family member very close to me just make an attempt and didn't succeed. Is in a safe place right now, which is good. But I know a lot of my family members are and people related to this individual, they're angry. They're really pissed off that they tried to kill themselves. And I do get that. I do get the anger. But when I heard, all I felt was sad and compassion. Just that they got to that point where the depression kept lying to them, telling them that, their ex, their family, their kids were going to miss them. But I assume that none of that came to mind for them either, because depression doesn't let the light in. It doesn't, it paints all the corners black, and it paints all the windows, and it locks everything, and it just puts you in a smaller and smaller room. And yeah, I just can't be mad at them for making the attempt. I was disappointed, but not even that much, because I can't judge. I was just mostly sad that we almost lost them. The loss to the world that would have been had they succeeded in their attempt. But yeah, all I felt was compassion. It was like, oh no, obviously, if you're listening to my podcast, I'm not shy about talking about my attempt, about offering my help to people. I have put my phone number on the internet in multiple places for people, if they don't want to call an 800 number, if they're looking for someone that they might know or has been through it. I'm not going to put my number in this podcast, but if you know where to find me on the internet, I guarantee you can find my phone number. And if you need something, call. There are lots of places to get help. But the problem is, when you're depressed, the idea of asking for help just doesn't exist. It's so compressing. Maybe that's the word. Depression, it just makes you smaller and smaller and smaller. And the smaller you feel, and the smaller you get, the less anything matters, and that's that depression lying to you. And it's really hard to get out of that. Man, I wish I had the magic phrase or the right words to say that, hey, if you're depressed and you're in the black hole and you can't even see the ladder to climb out that everybody's throwing in at you. I wish there was a magic phrase. And part of it is, at least, again, in my opinion, there's this notion that if you're struggling and you're asking for help or you need help, that's weakness. And believe me, I used to think that too. I would never ask for help because I'm like, if I ask for help, then I'm weak, because then I'm not the man of the house, and I'm not strong and taking care of myself and everybody else. And how dare I be weak, because these people depend on me, so I can't be weak. So I have to just suck this shit up and pretend it doesn't exist. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And, finally, you break. And that's what happened to me. I just, because I never took care of my depression when it was small, by the time it got big, it was everything. It was, all-encompassing. But that asking for help, I honestly believe it is the strongest thing anybody can do. Hiding in a corner and not asking for help because you think it makes you weak. Asking for help is the strong thing. Absolutely, it's strong. And it's hard to do, but we have to, as a society, understand people need help. I think I've said this before too. Hillary Clinton used to say it takes a village, and old Doug would get all mad. No, it doesn't. It takes parents. No, my God, does it take a village? We are all our brother's keepers. We are all responsible for everybody else on this planet. So yeah, asking for help is just is something. So along those lines, there's a book I read called The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. And I'm going to read a quote from that book, which pertains to this, about the weakness in asking for help. But this book changed my life dramatically. I've given out 68 copies of the book now. That tells you how much this book meant to me and how much I think it can help other people. But she talks about asking and the strength it takes to ask and what it means. So there's a quote from it that I'm going to read. So here it is. It's from Amanda Palmer's The Art of Asking, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Let People Help. Quote, "The perception that vulnerability is a weakness is the most widely accepted myth about vulnerability and the most dangerous. When we spend our lives pushing away and protecting ourselves from feeling vulnerable or from being perceived as too emotional, we feel contempt when others are less capable or willing to mask feelings. Suck it up and soldier on. We've come to the point where, rather than respecting and accepting the courage and daring behind vulnerability, we let our fear and discomfort become judgment and criticism. So that's the quote. And yeah, be vulnerable. And asking shows vulnerability, and there's nothing wrong with that. Being vulnerable is fine. You fall down, you ask for help, you get picked up, and then somebody else falls down and you help them, and then you fall down and they help you, and that's how the world is supposed to work. Depression is a liar, and it tells you not to ask for help. It tells you you're not worth helping. It tells you that there's nothing that can be done to help you. I don't know how to state this strongly enough. There are so many people out there that I admire. Again, Will Wheaton has talked about how depression is a liar over and over again. He has been so open with his struggles and his depression. It's amazing. It's truly, here's somebody I really look up to, and they're like, oh man, I fell down today, and it's really sad because I'm worthless. And, we need to, broken record time, we need to ask for help. We need to talk about this stuff because the world will not get better until we understand fundamentally we are all the same. We're all human. We all have the same wants and desires. We all want to be happy. We all want our families to be happy. We all want, and we have to do what we can to help each other get that same goal. There are times, and recently more so than in the past, I just get so confused and so bewildered at the world and how inhumanely another human can treat another human. I mean, it's just like this girl Greta from I can't remember what country she's from. The environmental activist. She comes out with this amazing emotional speech. Unbelievably smart girl, just articulate, motivated, strong, tremendous. Just nothing but respect for her. Whether you agree with her or not, what she's doing is phenomenal. And then these people come out and they start calling her names, and they calling her she's a shill. Somebody called her a Nazi, for God's sakes. And it's like, wait, so girl who's fighting for the environment is a Nazi. Wow. What is wrong with people? What makes someone, how hurt must somebody be inside to attack someone like that? One of the things I work on all the time is compassion. That's what I try to live in every moment, is compassion and gratitude. And there are people that do bad things, and I don't think they were a bad person. I think they did a bad thing. They made a bad decision. They made a bad choice. They got themselves into a position where they shouldn't be. But I take Donald Trump. I feel sorry for the guy. He seems to be lost and out of touch, and so self-absorbed in his own ego and making sure he's big and that he has a presence in the world, that he exists, that he doesn't pay attention to the other things around him. He doesn't pay attention to important things. I mean, you look at some of the videos and how he's reacted with his wife and, the whole umbrella thing, and he just walks off with the umbrella and she's standing in the rain going, be like, Don, and you feel bad for the guys who, the guys who call this girl a Nazi. It's like, wow, how sad for that man to be so broken inside, to have led such a life that his choice, when reading about that girl and when hearing about that girl, that his choice was to call her a Nazi. I mean, I feel so bad for the guy and his family. I mean, where did his humanity go? And where is the rest of our humanity? I mean, somebody falls down, you pick them up. Recently, I was in a bar eating dinner when I was on a road trip for work. And there's a guy sitting to the right of me, like 3 stools down. And there's a guy sitting to the left of me, about 3 stools down. And, I order a drink and I order dinner. I'm eating dinner. And all of a sudden, the guy to my right says to the guy on my left, "What are you looking at? Quit staring at me." And I look at the guy to my left and the guy to my right, and I'm like, oh boy. So I start running through all, what's my ethical responsibility, what's my moral responsibility in this situation. And the guy on the left goes, I'm just looking at the TV. And the TV, in order for the guy on my left to see the TV, he pretty much had to look almost at the guy to my right. I mean, not right at him, but, in that direction. And the guy to my right was pretty snookered. And obviously started, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And he gets up and he walks over to the guy. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of brace myself because I'm like, if he starts a fight, I think I need to intervene. I think I need to step in. That was what I felt at that moment. So I had to be ready because I had to interfere. I didn't have to, but that was just what I felt in that moment. The guy got in his face, said a couple things to him, went back to his chair, and was like, oh, thank God. I'm pretty much a pacifist. I didn't want to get violent. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about, then the manager came out and told people to knock it off and get out. So the guy to my left finished his drink and left, and the guy to my right was still sitting there. And all I wanted to do was I wanted to go talk to him and tell him it was okay and to give him a hug and to say, I'm sorry you're in this place. I'm sorry you're in so much pain. Is there anything I could do to help? But I was in a kilt, and I think he was drunk enough that I can't imagine it would have helped. So it was really hard for me not to help because I knew he was in pain. Well, I assumed he was in pain, but he certainly was giving all the indications he was in pain because of the way he lashed out and he reacted. But I didn't, and boy, I've been thinking about that since. As a human, I like to think I don't know if I like to think. As a human, I think I'm responsible for every other human on the planet to some degree. Some people I will never have an influence in their lives. Other people have a great influence on their lives. And everybody else is somewhere in between those two. So if somebody asks for help as another human, if I'm able to help in any way, aren't I obligated? If somebody needs help, aren't we obligated as other humans to help other humans? Of course, help me bury this body. Well, no, of course not. But, hey, I'm depressed. Hey, I need $5. Hey, can you help me move? Whatever. If you have the ability to help people, you should. And it's that gift. If somebody asks me to do something for them, hey, dog, I need $20. I need help moving, whatever the case may be. If they ask me for help, I get the opportunity to help them. I'm the one who's getting the gift. I'm getting the gift of being able to help them. I mean, to me, that's awesome. Ask me for things because, oh my God, I get the help. I love helping people. So when I get asked for things, if at all possible, I say yes, because first, I know it's hard to ask for a lot of people. So by responding in a positive manner, when someone asks me for help, I get to show them that it's okay to ask for help, that people will help you. So, yeah, the whole depression thing, depression steals you of all those options. It lies to you and it takes all of that away from you. It just pulls all the energy out, pulls all the light out of everything, and it tells you all the negative things you can imagine, and it's amplified because that dark hole is an echo chamber. So if you see someone who seems like they're in that, ask them for help. And if they say no, just pay attention. Just be there. Just shoot them a text. Hey, you look like you were having a bad day. Is there anything I can do to help? You need someone to talk to. You want to go grab a coffee. Just shoot them a text. Post something on their Facebook page. Hey, I was thinking of it. Shoot them a private message, an email. Shoot them a cat picture. You don't have to be verbal with your help. If you see somebody struggle, just throw them a line. Even the smallest, tiniest line you can throw somebody can help. And that's what we got to do is try to get the depression a little off center, a little bit of chink in that depression, let a little bit of light in. Because if you can get just that tiniest bit of light in, that might be enough. That might peel it back where they can look, see some light, throw a hand up and say, yeah, thanks for that. I really am struggling. I really need some help. So that's kind of my rambling bit about depression. Depression sucks. I feel very fortunate that most of my depression I was able to handle myself. through just hypervigilance with my brain and how I interacted with the world. So much of it for me was word choice and how I view my place in the world, which is tiny and insignificant, just like everybody's. But understanding that it's absolutely fine to be tiny and insignificant and have no real effect on the world. And I'm okay with that. But yeah, for me, I haven't taken an antidepressant since my suicide attempt. I haven't seen a shrink. I've read a crap ton of books that have helped me a lot. That's sort of asking. I'm reading one now called The Shit the Ego Says? Yeah. And I've actually sent that to a couple of people now because their internal dialogue seems off to me. And if you hear this, if they listen, I love you guys, and I only do it because I love you. But the ego, like depression, is a liar. Depression is the ego. The ego tells you all these things. Stay quiet, don't ask for help. It's just bad. Yeah, we got to take care of each other. I mean, to me, that's what the world comes down to. Every human has value. There is no human who is more value than another. One of the exercises I've tried to do, which has gotten easier for me, is I think of the person I know who has done me the most wrong in my life. Whether they have done wrong or not is irrelevant. It's what I perceive. And then I figure out how to feel compassion for them. How do I get to that point where I understand that they have an existence, they have a life, and they struggle, and they're just trying to do the best that they can, and not think of them as less than, not use negative words towards them, not have any negative feelings towards them. How do I bring them into the circle of acceptance that, yeah, you're another human, we're all here together, let's see if we can figure this shit out. To me, that's what it comes, I say it comes down to a lot of things, but compassion and love. Because, when I say I love everybody, yeah, I do. I say it to a lot of people. There are a lot of times I don't say it because I know it's not the right time or the right place. But if you're listening to this, I love you. It can get better. I won't say it does get better because, I know people who struggle every day and have struggled for a long, long time. It can get better. I'm not saying it'll ever be perfect, but ask for help. Throw it a lifeline to somebody and let them pull you ashore, let them pull you out of the hole. Please ask for help. The world's a pretty amazing place, and the more of us are in it, the more we share, the more we interact. The smaller the world gets, the better the world gets. So I think I've probably rambled about enough. I'm going to wrap this up. So thanks. This was episode 11 of the Doug in a Pub podcast. If you want to be a guest, shoot me an email at doug@douginapub.com. I can bring in a guest from anywhere around the world through this software program I use. Thanks again to Robert for doing all my editing over in Scotland. I'm finally going to meet him, I think, in November, so I'm going over there. That'll be awesome. Thanks to the band formerly known as Oh My Love for the music that you hear in my podcast. Unfortunately, they're gone, but Hannah, who's the singer from that band, who didn't appear in the music on this podcast, her new band is starting up in Madison, and she'll be at the Winnebago on October 4th in Madison, Wisconsin. So you should come out and see that. Robert's from the Brewdog News podcast. You should take a listen to that, especially if you like Brewdog beer. It's pretty much all about Brewdog. So other than that, take excellent care of yourselves. Take better care of each other. Life is a team sport, and we're all on the same team.